Hi friends, my name is Angela. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to the end of June. Today I'm going to share a little bit about my month and then I'll share with you some of the books that I read in June and a few books that I've picked up during the month as well. I'm really conscious of the personal information that I share online and I'm quite selective with it, but I feel like I need to tell you what happened during the month because it's something that's going to affect me for the rest of my life. And in terms of my relationship with you, it'll most definitely affect my reading life and the things that I probably do on here. So I'll be honest and upfront and say that this particular June of 2024 was not on my bingo card. It was not expected and it was extremely difficult. Unfortunately, my dad passed away at the start of this month, at the start of June. He passed away rather unexpectedly and suddenly, although he'd been diagnosed with a form of cancer in late 2023 and he'd been battling that and his treatment was successful. It really was successful for the cancer, but his immunity and health was compromised as a result of everything that his body went through. And so the last number of months have been pretty full on. And in all honesty, I think I started this channel because of that stressful time. I needed an outlet. I needed something to do. We did not expect this particular outcome at this time, so it was quite unexpected. And it goes without saying that it's been a difficult month and we are still grappling with the enormity of what this means for us as a family. I'm so fortunate to have been surrounded by friends who have really come together to support me and my family. And just to be there with my family and spend a lot of time together, remembering, reminiscing, and supporting my mum as well. I was quite lucky that I had actually a few videos already pre-recorded and ready to go. So I was able to put them up without really having to focus on this particular content. So that was a small blessing, and it was good to be able to continue that routine of sorts, I guess, through this and just chat with you guys in the comments and just have a bit of normalcy. So thank you so much to you guys. My dad was a wonderful man. We had a really good relationship, and him leaving is going to be a huge hole in our lives, but I'm so grateful to have had these weeks to be able to reflect on what he meant to me, to think about the lessons and values he's left with me and the things that I want to continue in his honor and his memory. So all that said, I didn't get a lot of reading done in the month. It was all over the place. I found it really difficult to concentrate, understandably. But one thing I did do well was I bought some books. Buying books makes me happy, and I just wanted to do a few things that would make me happy through the month. So I'm going to share with you some books that I bought, and then we'll get into some of the books that I read. The first book I wanted to share with you is this one, The Writer's Garden, How Gardens Inspired the World's Great Authors. It's kept popping up and I thought, I really want to get it. My dad and I would often talk about gardening and I thought this was a good time to buy this. I'm going to inscribe it in the front and just kind of make a note of when it is. And I think it will be something special for me to keep for a number of years. But anyway, this particular book was something I shared on my birthday wish list. It's something I've wanted for a little while. It came out this year. And it is about writers and it's about their gardens that they would retreat to. And it is the perfect antidote to a cold winter's day as you escape into this beautiful imagery in this book. So there are a number of authors in here that are highlighted. It starts off with Louisa May Alcott and then it goes into Jane Austen. There's Agatha Christie, Roald Dahl, William Faulkner, Thomas Hardy, Ernest Hemingway. All these people you would think, Beatrix Potter, Leo Tolstoy, Virginia Woolf. There's some incredible ones, and there's a lot of authors that I haven't heard of as well. So I really am glad that I purchased this book. It's just so beautiful. I think the information that's in here about the author and what the garden meant to the author for them to be able to create is quite insightful. So I'm enjoying flicking through this one at the moment on these cold and sometimes dreary winter days. Another book that was on my birthday wish list was Clear by Karis Davies. And I was in a bookstore yesterday and I saw it and it's this gorgeous little hardback and I thought, why not? So I think it came out this year. I'm not sure exactly what month this year it came out, but it was something that I had really put on my radar, and it looks like a really thoughtful and engaging little story. This is a little bit of the summary. 1843, on a small island off the north coast of Scotland, Ivar, the sole occupant, leads a life of quiet isolation until the day he finds a man unconscious on the beach below the cliffs. The newcomer is John Ferguson, an impoverished church minister sent to evict Ivar and turn the island into grazing land for sheep. Unaware of the stranger's intentions, Ivar takes him into his home, and in spite of the two men having no common language, a fragile bond forms between them. Against the rugged backdrop of this faraway spot, Caris Davies' intimate drama unfolds with tension and tenderness, a touching and crystalline study of ordinary people buffeted by history and a powerful exploration of the distances and connections between us. It says it's a marvel of storytelling, an exquisite short novel by a master of the form. So there's a lot of promises, and I'm looking forward to that. And it feels like a wintry read, so I really wanted to get it. It's not very long at all. It is 154 pages long, so I bought this one recently. The next book I got was something I shared with you in a recent video about new releases I was excited about, and I saw it on the bookshelf and it was a signed copy, so why not? That is The Shadows of Winter Robins by Louise Walhutter. And yeah, it was signed, so I thought, why not get it? Louise Walhutter is actually based where I am in Perth, and some of this story is set in Western Australia and I presume in Perth. So this sounds like quite a tense read. I like the connections to where I am and the fact that it's a local author. Another one on that new release list was The Desert Knows Her Name by Leah Hills. And again, I saw it in the store and thought, okay, I'm going to get it. And I mean, I'm kind of into nature-inspired book covers right now, and the birds are doing it for me. This one sounds just as tense, a little bit different. It is probably something I'm going to hold off on until maybe spring to actually read. It's set in October, and it's another Australian author. It's set in the bush, and it's about a girl who wanders out of the desert into this small town. And she doesn't say a word. She is mute for whatever reason. And her being there and her silence starts to set off a few things in the town. And so it sounds like it's got some interesting themes throughout it. I'm looking forward to reading this one. And yeah. A completely random one that I saw in a bookstore was Ham on Rye by Charles Bukowski. And I've never read any Bukowski before, but I remember coming across his name years ago, like when I first discovered Jewel Kilcher, the singer-songwriter Jewel, and I'm not sure if it was a song lyric or if it was a poem, and she referenced Bukowski and his wife. And of course, then I was like, well, who's Bukowski? And she referenced a lot of authors like Henry Miller and Anais Nin and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I saw this in the store and I thought, I'll get this, because I had also heard Ham on Rye recently referenced in one of those In the Library with Chanel videos. And so I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And the summary is Charles Bukowski is one of the greatest authors of the 20th century. The autobiographical Ham on Rye is widely considered his finest novel. A classic of American literature, it offers powerful insight into his youth through the prism of his alter ego, Henry Chinaski, who grew up to be the legendary Hank Chinaski of Post Office and Factotum. So yeah, I think it's just a piece of classic American literature, and I thought, why not? I'll get that. And then this one I just bought yesterday, and it's called Date with Death by Julia Chapman. To be honest, I was in the store and I saw a book, I think it was Date with Malice, and it had this beautiful wintry inspired cover, and I thought, oh, a cozy winter mystery is just what I want. Then I realized that was the second in a series and this is the first. So I was able to find the first. I've never heard of this author. I've never heard of this series. It is a detective series about a woman who runs a dating agency in a small Yorkshire town, and there's death. And she is, I presume, a little bit of a sleuth. So I thought, that sounds like what I want to read right now, is something with a bit of crazy from a small country town. You know, those quirky characters and a cozy mystery that I can just dip into. So I've just started this one, and I think it's really perfect for this time of year as well. It starts off with this really evocative description of autumn and very foggy, and right now it's really, in the mornings, it's very, very foggy where we are. So it fits in quite well. So I've just started this one, and so far, so good. So that leads us into what I actually read this month. And I read 4 books. I've still got a few on the go. I actually read 3 books of short stories, which when I think about it, it makes sense because I didn't have the bandwidth to really sit down with a deep novel. Short stories really fit the bill for me this month. So the first one I read was Antarctica by Claire Keegan. And this is a selection of 16 short stories, and I believe it is Claire Keegan's debut. I don't think she had written a novella or anything beforehand. So this is her collection of short stories, and it is really, really amazing. All these stories are not really connected in any specific way other than the fact that it really goes through the entire spectrum of human emotion. There is grief, sex, death, anger, hatred, love, jealousy, deceitfulness. It just goes through all of these human things that we go through, and some we don't want to admit we go through. And it is really quite good. Her writing style is so unique to me, and I'm always amazed at how she can fit in so much into a short story. It feels like at the end of a short story, you've read an entire novel, and really it's only been 10 pages. I don't know how she does it. Her prose is really quite unique. With Claire Keegan, you often find yourself being lulled into this little story, and you're slowly just coming into it, unawares what's really going to happen, and then all of a sudden, you are gripped, and she has really just entrapped you in this story, and you need to finish it to find out what is going to happen. Not every story has a tidy ending. Some of them are a little bit of a cliffhanger. I did like a number of the stories in here. The ones I particularly liked was Antarctica, the title story, which is about a woman who, she's a woman who has gone away for the weekend or a week away from her family, from her husband and her child. And she is going to have an encounter with infidelity, no particular person. And she meets someone, they have this encounter, and you think you know what's going on, and there is a major plot twist at the end that you didn't see coming. And after I read that one, I was like, well, I need to finish all these stories now, because if they're all like that, I'm in. And not every story is like a hit, but I would say there are more hits than misses in here. But so Antarctica, Love in the Tall Grass was another one, Where the Water's Deepest, Burns, Men and Women and Sisters. They were definitely highlights for me, but it just really is a great display of just humanity and our longing and our flaws and our faults. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I would recommend it. If you haven't yet gotten hold of this, I would recommend doing it. But yeah, the first story is an absolute banger. And if you can put it down after reading that, then you're stronger than I am. The next book I read was Winnie the Pooh, The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne. Lovely little Winnie the Pooh. This is the second in, I think it's a series of 4 written by A.A. Milne, and then there's 2 more after that are written by other people, but carrying on the Pooh story. So The House at Pooh Corner is a perfect autumn read. It really is. It is set in the autumn months. I felt it was really evocative, like we start off with Pooh is going out and he's like it's in the snow, and it's just a perfect autumn winter read. There's a lot of wind. Owl's house gets blown down. We meet Tigger for the first time, and you really see Pooh and Piglet just become this dynamic duo, this friendship evolving. I really enjoyed it. It was perfect. I could just dive into this at night and read a short story, and it would just leave me a little bit warmer than I was before. Something I really loved with this book was the dedication at the start. It was so beautiful. I think I popped it in my commonplace book. This is the dedication. You gave me Christopher Robin, and then you breathed new life into Pooh. Whatever of each has left my pen goes homing back to you. My book is ready and comes to greet the mother it longs to see. It would be my present to you, my sweet, if it weren't your gift to me. So cute. That was a beautiful little poem. A.A. Milne is a wonder. Next, I will be picking up the 3rd book in the series, which is When We Were Very Young by A.A. Milne. And this is a little bit different. The first 2 books are most definitely episodic, whereas this is verses and poems for children. This will be the next one that I read, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'll have to buy the next one and have that ready to go as soon as I finish this one. So that was 2 books of short stories, and the 3rd one I read was Autumn Chills by Agatha Christie. This is the 2nd book I have read in a collection of 4 seasonal books of short stories by Agatha Christie. There's Autumn Chills, Midwinter Murders, Sinister Spring, and Midsummer Mysteries. And so I'll be starting the Midwinter Murder Mysteries, the winter one, next. But the Autumn Chills I really enjoyed. I liked it more than the summer one, and it could be that I just like to read cozy mysteries more in the cooler months rather than in the summer and in the heat. But I felt much more engaged with this one, with these stories. I really did enjoy it. So if you've picked up one of the other ones and didn't quite get it, I would recommend this one. And this particular edition is just beautiful with these gorgeous autumnal end pages. So those were the 3 books of short stories that I read, but then I picked up a novel. I picked up The Last Witch of Scotland by Philip Paris. And this was not something I expected to be picking up. I remember sitting there on one day and I picked up no less, I think it might have been 6 books. I read a page from every one and I just could not connect with it. I just didn't want to read anything I currently had on the go. So I decided to pick this one up off my shelf, which has been there for a few months. I picked it up on a whim in a bookstore. It really was the perfect palate cleanser for me. It was a true historical fiction escape for me. So this fiction book is inspired by the true story of the last woman who was executed for witchcraft in Scotland in 1722. At least I think it's 1722. I think in the epilogue it does talk about some disparity with the dates, 1722 or 1727. Philip Paris has just taken this entire story, given this backstory to this woman, and it's narrated by her daughter. I want to pronounce her name Ayla, A-I-L-A. This is almost a young adult read, I think. There is adventure, there's a little romance, a strong female lead. There's a lot of historical fact in here, just about how things were at the time. I really enjoyed reading about the domestic habits, like when Ayla is putting on her clothes, they talk about all the pieces that go into it, all the different names for the different pieces of clothing, or when they're making food. It just had a lot of historical facts, which I found interesting for the time. I don't think it's the best writing, but for a story, it's great. I mean, I actually found about 3 spelling errors in here, which was interesting. I can't remember the last time I did that. I felt like the writing itself was probably not as strong as I would have liked, but it didn't make it any less enjoyable. It was a fun, fast-paced read. I really loved the characters that you were meant to love, and I really hated the characters that we were meant to hate. I did enjoy them. I could see it playing out like a movie, very Outlander-ish. It's a really important story to tell of how many innocent women were persecuted and executed for witchcraft. And while this is fiction, I don't think it's too far from the truth. I think that it quite possibly could have played out very similar to how this did. So I did enjoy it. I would recommend it if you like historical fiction, if you like Outlander, Scottish Highlands, really good. Great autumnal read. So those were the books I read. I read 4 books, 1 novel, 3 books of short stories. I'm surprised because I think I read these in like the last week and a half. It was the first half of the month I didn't get to read much. But anyway, looking forward to July. I'm planning on doing an upcoming video that looks back over the last 6 months because it's coming up to 6 months since I started this channel. And I want to revisit my reading goals for 2024. I've learned a lot about my reading habits and I've learned a lot about being a YouTuber, and I wanted to share these things with you. With that in mind, I would like to get to know you better, or at least help you get to know me better. And I invite you to leave any questions below that I might be able to answer in an upcoming Q&A in July. You're welcome to ask any question you like. It could be about books or my reading habits, living in Australia, my life, gardening, recipes. You're welcome to ask any question you like. But yeah, please leave those down below and that'll be in a future Q&A in July. Which I think will be quite retrospective as I think about what I've read and what I want to read in the next 6 months' time. And I'd like to help you get to know me a little bit better. Thank you, as always, for joining me on this journey. Thank you for your comments and your recommendations and your just always being so welcoming here in this little corner of BookTube. I really appreciate it. I hope you had a good month of reading in June yourself, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.